Scottish Premiership Playoffs Final. St Mirren versus Partick Thistle.
I don't know where Michael got the great intro, but that is fantastic. A great way to start the show, James.
It was a wee bit unexpected.
Yeah, me as well. But great to be on here on a Monday night instead of being out in the back garden in the sunshine. But great to be on, obviously. St Mirren against Partick Thistle. As Michael always says, my Partick Thistle, because I go and watch them quite a bit now because of the media access. But no, I think first of all, I'm joined here by James. Thank you for joining me again, James.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
So, James, obviously, a massive match on tonight. What are you thinking for this match?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm a little bit torn because I used to go and watch Partick Thistle when I was a lad. If Celtic were playing away and I couldn't go to the game at Celtic Park, so I would go up to Firhill if they were playing. But I had a cousin who played for St Mirren in the 70s, and I used to go and watch them as well. So I'm kind of torn between the two. But in all honesty, I think Thistle deserve the opportunity to get into the Premier League because they've got so close the last few occasions, and I think they really need it. And maybe Saints need to drop down and come back again. Your mic's off.
What I was going to say, James, is I think you're spot on because I think it's a massive match for St Mirren because St Mirren have been in the Premier League for a long time now.
I know.
Obviously, I think if they go down to the Championship, this could be a big deal for them because I don't feel bad in saying this, but probably a lot of people will be losing their jobs as well.
Yeah. The thing is, to all intents and purposes, they are a Premier League team now. As you say, they've been in there for such a long time. They're embedded in there. So it's really important from their point of view that they stay in the league. But as I said, for me personally, I think the Jags deserve a chance because they've got so close over the last few years and just never quite managed it.
I mean, I think in terms of Partick Thistle, I mean, the playoffs has not been really a best place for them. I mean, you look at obviously a few years ago, they were 3-0 up against obviously Ross County in the playoff final, and then obviously they drew 3 each and then losing penalties. I think Partick Thistle fans are still kind of thinking about that night, James, but I think it's a difficult one for Partick Thistle fans.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they've had a terrific season, the Jags. That they've done really, really well. Maybe a little bit unlucky, not to sort of like get automatic promotion. But in saying that, at the end of the day, St Johnstone were absolutely superb and extremely difficult to displace. So they deserve their place to get a chance. But as you say, it's going to be a very, very difficult game. Two teams and it's so evenly poised as well, at 1-1. And it could go either way, or it could go all the way to penalties again. Who knows?
And obviously, you obviously watched the match on Thursday.
No, I didn't see it because I do my own radio program on a Thursday night on Indie Live Radio.
But I just wondered if you seen any of the highlights and stuff.
I saw some of the highlights later on Thursday night. I had got messages from a few people saying to me that it wasn't a particularly good game. And obviously the highlights, you don't really get that sort of feeling about it because they're going to show you the best bits. But, I think it was probably a nervy game by all accounts from what people have said about it.
Yeah, I mean, see in terms of Partick Thistle, I don't know if you've seen much of them on obviously TV this season. I've obviously seen them maybe about 10 times this year, 10, 12 times. I mean, what have you made of Partick Thistle?
Well, I try, if they're going to be on a Friday night, I do try to tune into it. I don't always manage, but I do try to tune into it. And in the games that I have seen of Partick Thistle this season, as I said, I felt that they deserved to be going up as champions, but they just couldn't get past St Johnstone, who were just like absolutely at it from day one.
I think the big thing for Partick Thistle, to be honest, was their away form. Their away form was terrible.
Yeah.
But the home form was brilliant. They've got the best home form in Scotland, along with Graham's Hearts. I better mention Hearts like Graham on
Never mind that Graham fella.
I think Graham might join us to talk about Strickland as well, James. But I think in general, do you think in terms of St Mirren, I think the pressure's really on. I think Graham makes a good point there.
I think they really are the team that are under the most pressure, purely because they've been a Premier League team for such a long time. And again, they've had that kind of up and down season. They were doing quite well to begin with, and then obviously they won the League Cup and beating Celtic in the final. But then it just all seemed to go downhill from them. And then obviously Stephen Robinson left and went up to Aberdeen, and that was a youth. I think he was a youth coach, the guy who came in as the interim manager, and he had a kind of mixed bag of results. But he seems to be very confident. You know, when I've seen him being interviewed, he seems to be very confident that whether they stay in the Premier League or whether they go down, he's the man to take the team forward, and maybe he is.
Yeah, I mean, see, in terms of you, I mean, like, what is your kind of feeling in terms of tonight's match? Are you thinking St Mirren, or are you thinking Partick Thistle?
Well, as I said to you, I'm kind of torn between the two, but I'm leaning more towards Partick Thistle because, as I said, I used to go up there and watch them when I was a boy, when there wasn't a game on at Celtic Park. So I spent a lot of time up there in Maryhill at the old ground, and had a lot of great memories. And even afterwards, you know, going back, you know, as an adult to watch games there, it was always an atmosphere that I was comfortable in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, see, like Partick Thistle, I was there on Thursday night, and the crowd there was brilliant because there was nearly 9,000 Partick Thistle fans there.
Was there? That's a terrific crowd.
Yeah, I mean, the stadium was jam-packed. I mean, I think Partick Thistle actually said that they sold every possible ticket. So I think it just shows you that although people talk about, obviously, the Premier League being the kind of main event, but for Partick Thistle to be getting 8,000-9,000 fans in there is brilliant as well. And
the thing is, if they do go up, you know, even if they only take, you know, half of that number to away games, it's still a good following for a team, you know, going away. And obviously, if they're at home, then it cuts down the number of tickets that's available for whoever the opposition's going to be.
Yeah, and obviously, the next thing I just want to actually speak to you about is the fact that obviously who you think could be the sort of danger men. Obviously, I spoke to Tony Watt on Thursday night. I mean, I think Tony Watt could be a danger man for me, but I don't know about you, James.
Well, as I said, it was only the highlights I seen, so I didn't really see the bulk of the game. But the bits that I did see, when Tony Watt was playing, he was doing very, very well. And in actual fact, I didn't realise he was at Partick Thistle.
Yeah,
you know, I knew he'd left Motherwell, but I didn't realise he'd gone to Partick Thistle. So I was a wee bit surprised at that.
I think it's because of obviously Mark Wilson as the manager, who played with Celtic, obviously scoring that goal against Barcelona when Tony Watt that night. But yeah, I think it's great to obviously speak to you as well. But obviously Graham's going to be on too. Hi, Graham.
Boo.
Good evening, gents. It's great to be on with Anton Deck. How's it going?
Not bad.
The question is, which one's Ant and which one's Deck?
You can decide that between you. I don't want to say anything.
Oh, come on, Graham, tell us. Tell us. But no, Graham, so what's your kind of thoughts on the Partick Thistle and St Mirren game tonight?
I said before the game last week, I fancied Partick over two legs because they've got to come up at some point. I'm watching it last week. I kind of thought they missed a lot of chances, especially that first half. They missed that Lee Ashcroft header. He's got to score other chances as well. I think the one where Tony Watt goes clean through, I think he's got to do better, and I thought they might regret that. So if they get chances tonight, which they should do, because that St Mirren defence are quite vulnerable, they've got to take them. The pressure's on St Mirren. I said that in the chat earlier, but I don't know. I just have a fancy feeling that Partick might actually do this time. And of course, the last time they played in Paisley, they got beat in the cup. Probably should have gone through actually. So I know Robbie is at the game, but I kind of fancy Partick to finally get this over the line.
Yeah, I mean, James, I mean, see, in terms of Partick Thistle, obviously Mark Wilson is his first real kind of job in management. I know that Dale and Super Scoreboard kind of takes a issue of it, obviously being at Brecon before. But I think Mark Wilson's done a fantastic job as well.
Absolutely. And do you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter where a manager starts his career. It's what he does throughout his career. And if he progresses and then gets an opportunity at an inverted commas big club, it's based on what his ability has been and what he has done with teams. And I don't like it when people diss, young managers. As you say, because he was at Brecon. Oh, well, he was only at Brecon. Well, do you know what? Maybe if he had stuck it at Brecon, he might have taken Brecon up into, not necessarily the Premier League, but, up into the higher echelons.
Yeah, I don't know if you've got the team news, Graham, but I think Partick Thistle showed on Thursday night that they played two up front. So I think that could be a big problem for St Mirren as well, because Samuel's a good player, Graham. I've spoken to him many times, and Samuel's a brilliant player to watch.
Yeah, I spoke about this on the show last week. I actually thought that battle between Samuel and Gogic was entertaining last week. I think Gogic probably just about won it, but we know he's going to cause problems. We know that Samuel's a really good player. And again, he had a chance in the first half as well. That poor header back from Richard King is a little bit unlucky, just that poor touch that he takes. But he'll cause problems. But there's no doubt he will cause problems tonight. And I think if Partick can get the first goal, I think it would put real pressure on St Mirren, because that St Mirren crowd are going to be very nervous. They'll be very pensive. It'll be a very difficult night. If they lose the opening goal, it could be a very long night for St Mirren. So I think Samuel's important. Fitzpatrick's important. Again, if they get chances, they've got to take them. They've got to have that killer instinct that I just don't think they quite had last week.
Yeah, I agree. See if Partick Thistle fans are watching this now. I've got some massive news for them. Partick Thistle's best player this season, Ben Stanley, is back, and he's in the starting 11, Graham.
Well, that's great news. I thought he was a massive miss last week, and it's a big bonus for Partick that he's there, and it's a huge blow for St Mirren that he's there. So again, it's great news for Partick Thistle, and I think, I said this last week, fair play to Mark Wilson, because I thought when he got the job, it was kind of thinking, how's he going to get on there? And I think I mentioned this last week as well. The fact that when Brian Graham turned it down, Wilson wasn't even on the shortlist. He might have thought, actually, I'm not going to bother taking it, but he's taken the job. And what a job he's done. Like, they've had a fantastic season overall. And I think it would just be so good if they were to come up. I'd be disappointed for Robbie, of course, but for Partick Thistle, it would be fantastic if they came up. You're Partick in the Premiership.
Yeah, I'm Partick Thistle. Yeah. I'm Partick Thistle, Graham. It'd be great for the squad, because, I know so many people at the club now. I speak to the groundsman on a regular basis, who's a great guy, big Partick Thistle fan. So it would just be great for so many people around the club. It really would.
And the great thing for me about Partick Thistle is that the club hasn't really changed. Through the good times and the bad times, it's always retained that kind of family feel to it. And everybody kind of knows everybody that's connected to Partick Thistle. The fans, the ground staff, the office staff, the playing staff. Over the years, they've all kind of known one another on a reasonably good level.
Yeah, and I was saying to James before you came on, Graham, but the crowd on Thursday night was fantastic. I mean, I think there was about almost 9,000 people there. I mean, Partick Thistle sold out the full stadium. I don't think I've seen Firhill that full for a game in a long time.
Yeah, and you could feel the atmosphere before the game, right behind the goal. It was such a fantastic atmosphere. And Firhill's quite a tight ground. It's a really nice ground. I've been there a few times. They've got passionate fans. They travel all over. And it would be great for them to come up. I mean, I've banged the drum on this for so long. I really would love to see league reconstruction and for teams like Partick to actually be in the Premiership anyway and to extend the league a bit to let teams like that in. But it's not going to happen now. But it'd be great if Partick come up tonight. They would deserve it. They've got a really good fan base. I think they'll probably bring more in terms of support than a lot of other teams do in the Premier League. So, yeah, it'd be great to see them come up. And what a story it would be. For Mark Wilson to take Partick Thistle to the Premier League after all this time would be absolutely sensational. And I hope they do it. As I say, I don't want to be down on Robbie because he's a really good guy. But I would love to see Partick up. I really would. I think it'd be fantastic.
I mean, to strike that balance, because we always need balance in the show. I mean, see, in terms of St Mirren, James, I mean, St Mirren have had a pretty bad season apart from winning that trophy.
As I said to you earlier, I mean, they kind of started off okay, and then obviously they won the cup, beating Celtic in the final, and then it just all seems to have unravelled. And then obviously, as I said, Stephen Robinson, he takes himself off up to Aberdeen, and they bring in the lad who, I think he was a youth team coach or something before he got made the temporary manager. So perhaps not the best choice, but he's had kind of like up and down results. He's had some good results, and he's obviously had some bad results.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the fans are really taking to him, to be honest. I know that Robbie was saying tiki-taka football for the first 2 weeks, but then he started taking away with that, Graham. But see, in terms of Partick Thistle, I've got the team sheet here. Partick Thistle make one change from Thursday night's game, and that is the fact that Chalmers drops to the bench and Ben Stanley will play instead of Chalmers. So that's Partick Thistle's lineup. They're going to play two up front of Samuel and Tony Watt. So that's a big strike force for Partick Thistle as well, Graham.
Yeah, it is. And obviously with Tony Watt, you've got the experience, a proper journeyman striker there. And I think he's actually quite a good foil for Samuel, because Samuel does a lot of the running, a lot of the hard work, and Tony Watt's got the experience, the physicality. You look at the goal last week, it came from really good work by Tony Watt, really good pull back in, and they scored from it. So yeah, it's a really good partnership, and fair play to, you would have maybe thought Partick away from home, yes, it's a game they have to win, of course, but they would have been very within their rights to just go one up front and keep it a bit tight. But to go two up front, fair play to Mark Wilson. He's obviously going for it. I don't think he knows other way to play. That's the way that you want to be for a fan. Actually go for it and cause St Mirren problems. I always say this, especially about Hearts as well. I would rather focus on my own team and concentrate on what we can do rather than what the other team does. And Mark Wilson's doing that by playing two up front. He's wanting to have a go at St Mirren and make them uncomfortable. And like I said, if they can get the first goal, that could be so important.
Yeah, but like I was saying to James earlier, Partick Thistle fans have been used to heartbreak in these moments. Obviously 3-0 up in the Highlands. I think it was 3 years ago. So I think in terms of you, James, I mean, what are you thinking in terms of Partick Thistle? Because, see, in terms of Partick Thistle, do you think that they'll just be looking to score early and kind of hold on to the lead, or do you think they'll be seeing how the game goes, or how do you think they'll approach it?
I mean, if he's going with two strikers, he's going for goals, isn't he? He's not putting two strikers on to get a goal and then sit back for the remainder of the game, depending on when it is that they score. He's going to go for goals, and he has to go for goals to a certain extent. But the same is true for St Mirren. But it's a question of whether or not St Mirren players, will they be up for it tonight properly? Because you're going to need every player on both sides to be given 110% for the full time of the game, whether that's 90 minutes or 120 minutes or whatever the case may be. You can't have anybody on either side who's a passenger.
I mean, I'm just looking through the St Mirren team for tonight. St Mirren, I think it's sort of the same squad that played on Thursday night. I don't think there's many changes. I think Mandaron starts up top. Obviously, Phillips, who scored Graham on Thursday, Fraser, Gogic, Freckleton, Richardson, Greg Panzer, Young and Mandaron. So I think it's basically the same squad that took to the pitch on Thursday, Graham, for St Mirren.
I think the only change is Young, because I think he started on the bench. So he's the young laddie, ironically, that came on and I thought he looked good. I'm kind of surprised that Adowo's not starting, because I thought when he came off the bench, he looked very lively, very tricky, very creative. I thought he might have started. But I'm glad the other laddie Young's playing. But they're going to rely a lot on Mandaron. Again, I thought he was decent last week. He obviously was involved in the opening goal. Fantastic finish as well, by the way. So, yeah, the pressure is going to be so tough on St Mirren here. Because like you and James have said, they've had a really horrendous league season. Like winning the League Cup, it probably sounds daft, but it's probably the worst thing that could have happened. Because I don't know if they kind of maybe switched off and thought, we've won a cup now, we'll be fine. And they've just completely switched off and gone completely downhill. I didn't think they'd be in the position they're in, but listen, this is football. Things change very quickly. And I think you talk about the pressure on St Mirren. The pressure on Craig McLeish is massive. An under-19 coach getting put into this position, he's under massive pressure tonight. You know, he's got to get this right, because I think you mentioned it earlier. There's a lot of folk are not overly keen on him, and I kind of understand that, but it's not really his fault. You know, he gets off with the job, he's not going to turn it down. But it's such a massive game for him. He's got to get this right. If he takes St Mirren down to the Championship, I mean, that's going to have a huge effect on him.
Yeah, Graham, I mean, I know Michael's great friends with the St Mirren chairman, John Needham, but I mean, that was a big call to put the under-19s manager as a first-team manager. Big call. Yeah,
and Robbie said this last week, that apparently the players wanted him. But then I kind of think, well, do the players want him because they thought they'd get an easy ride under him rather than Stephen Robertson? I'm not there. But it just seems to me, to put a guy with no experience in charge of the first team in a position they're in was a big risk. And if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, then you're failing miserably. And it's looking at the moment like it's going to fail. If he keeps him up, it's worked. But I think the timing of the whole Robinson thing was really weird to me. I said this at the time. For him to go with, 8-9 games to go when you're in this kind of position was so difficult. And to throw a young guy like that in, I'm sure he's probably thought about this for a while, but not the position they're in. And if he takes St Mirren down, it's not all on him. Like, the players have got to do a lot more. The experienced players like Gogic and guys like that have got to do more. Mark O'Hara. But this will be a bad reflection on Craig McLeish if they go down tonight. I mean, you wonder where his stock's going to go if that happens.
Yeah, I know the owner's done some great things. He's done some great things for Paisley. Obviously, he's recruited Stephen Robinson, things like that. But if you then go from winning a trophy to then getting relegated, like, it's just a very bad season. I know you can say, it's a great season because you won a trophy, but I mean, to not be in the Premier League when you were, see when Stephen Robinson left, I know people can say that he shouldn't leave with 7 games to go, but St Mirren were a pretty good place. St Mirren were not like anywhere kind of near it. They were still kind of not fighting for their lives. They were still sort of for thinking they were going to stay up, and that's probably worked. Probably in the board, because the board's probably thought, right, well, St Mirren don't need to go and bring a manager in because we're already safe. So maybe psychologically the board already thought they were safe. Because I think for me it's actually worked out to be bad, because maybe the board sort of they underestimated the situation, Graham.
I don't think this is it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think they have underestimated it. I think any manager that comes in, interim, whatever, you normally do occasionally get that new manager bounce where things are a little bit different. I think they had that the first couple of games, but then they started to lose. And I spoke to Robbie about this, and Robbie said that the style of football was really poor. It just wasn't working. He was picking the wrong players. The system didn't really work. And that's what you find out with an inexperienced coach. You know, what might work at under 19 level, maybe it doesn't work when you actually come into the first team. It's a big, big step. And for a guy like McLeish to take that on, as I said, he's not going to turn it down. But that's when you need a more experienced person beside him to say, look, I think you're doing this wrong. I think you're doing that wrong. You need to change this. You need to change that. And I think they've got an experienced man. I think they've got an experienced person in there, but it's clearly not worked. And I do feel sorry for him because he's been thrust into this. And I actually joked with Robbie about this when St Mirren won the cup, and I said, it might be a case of you win the cup and you go down. And I didn't think that was actually going to be true. And I kind of thought, would he take that? And I think at the time he said yes, but now he's like, no, I wouldn't. I mean, St Mirren in the Championship would be an absolute shocker. I mean, we've been down there. It's not nice. Generally, it's not, because the Championship is one of the most difficult leagues and most competitive leagues in Scotland to get out of. And I do worry that if St Mirren do go down, it could take a while to come back up. And this, for me, this isn't on McLeish. This is on the board. They made this decision. So tonight, as I said, is absolutely massive for both teams, but especially St Mirren. They cannot afford to go into that Championship.
See, if they ultimately do go in the Championship, do you think do you think a lot of the players will believe in? Because I think like, even players like Phillips and maybe Melanderon, these players won't want to be playing Championship football, Graham.
No, absolutely not. I mean, as I said, nobody wants to play in the Championship. Don't get me wrong, it's no disrespect, but you don't want to be down there. You don't want to be playing teams that are in that league. You want to be playing at the higher level. And a lot of these players will not want to sit in the Championship. And like I said, it's going to be so competitive next season. You look at the teams already in there. You know, you look at teams like Morton, you look at teams like Raith Rovers, you look at Dunfermline, you look at Inverness Cali, for example. It's so tough to get out of. I think it's even harder. I think it's even harder now than it was previously. You don't want to be down there. And I think a lot of those players will actually be thinking, right, I need to get my agent to get me out of here. So yeah, I think a lot of those players will probably end up leaving. And again, this is no slight on McLeish. It's not his fault. This is the board that have done this. But it's going to have huge ramifications for St Mirren if they go down. It could set them back a good couple of seasons if they go down. This is how massive tonight is.
James, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that's the East Coast bias there from Graham, just completely dissing you on Queen's Park. My local team, by the way. You know, when he was mentioning those other fantastic football
I forgot
teams.
about Queen's Park.
But no, I can't disagree with anything that Graham was saying there. Although I don't really think it's that much of a choice whether the players want to play in the Championship or they don't want to play in the Championship. It's a matter of economics. If they go down, you know, can they afford to keep, I don't know what these players are earning, but can they afford to keep them on Premier League wages in the Championship? You know, there's got to be some players there that are going to be earning pretty decent money, and they probably would have to sell them to be able to float at least in a season down in the Championship.
Yeah. I think what we should do now is get a score prediction from the two of you.
I'm going to go 2-1 to the Jags.
I'm going to go with 2-0 to the Jags. 2-0 Partick Thistle.
Ooh. So on you, Graham.
I think I said this last week. I'm going 1-1 and Partick to win on penalties by 3-2.
I knew you were going to be sitting on the fence, Graham.
So we'll not be on at 10 o'clock.
I'm just going to check those splinters. Hang on.
But see, to be honest, though, I could see that being a scenario, you know, based on the highlights that I saw of the game last Thursday, you know, with it ending at 1-1. I could see how it could possibly be still a draw at the end of tonight, and then going into extra time, and then potentially having to go into penalties. But I just think the Jags have got that wee bit extra to get them over the line tonight.
And also, I think psychologically, because psychologically, Partick Thistle are playing well so many weeks all the time, but St Mirren are not playing well at the moment.
Yeah, there is a lot in that. If you're in that kind of losing spiral, it's difficult to get yourself out of it, and it takes a special person or persons within a team to break that spiral. I was reading something earlier on today. I can't remember which Celtic player it was, but he was talking about Callum McGregor and how, if they didn't have him, kind of pulling the players together on and off the field, he didn't think that they would have got, into getting a double this season. Didn't actually think they would have got the league, which many people didn't think, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think it was Trusty that said that.
Was it Trusty? I couldn't remember. It was just something I read earlier on today.
And I think it would be very rude of me not to ask Graham about the news yesterday that Shankland is set to join Rangers on a 4-year deal.
Hang on, Graham, and I'll hand you a tissue virtually.
I've been thinking about this since yesterday, and I've done a couple of TikToks on this already. I didn't think I was as frustrated until this morning when I woke up and thought about it. Now, of course, it's his boyhood club. I don't really begrudge him that, the fact that he's going to Rangers. I thought it was going to happen eventually. Where my frustration comes in, and I said this earlier, is the contract.
Yeah,
the fact that he signed a 3-year deal, and apparently Shankland and his agent had put in this release clause that meant he could leave after a year for nothing. So we're going to get nothing for him. So you're looking at your top goal scorer, your leader, your captain going for nothing. That is where my frustration and a lot of other Hearts fans' frustration comes in. If we'd got money for him, then absolutely fine. He goes absolutely fine. But we're getting nothing for the guy that's been our top goal scorer for the last 4 seasons. He's got 88 goals in 4 seasons. He's scored 20 goals in 3 out of those 4 seasons. It's bad enough that you lose him to a rival club you're competing with, but to lose him for nothing is where me and a lot of other Hearts fans are frustrated about. Listen, he's been absolutely fantastic for Hearts. He's been absolutely brilliant. He's probably, he is our best striker since John Robertson. When you consider he left in 1998, that's mental. But it doesn't sit right with me that Hearts have allowed that to happen. Now, again, a lot of folk will say, well, if you look at it this way, if you don't have him for this year, we don't finish second, we don't get Champions League. And again, I get that completely. But the fact is, he's got 2 years left in his contract, and we are losing him for nothing. That is where my frustration has come into. And I've said this earlier on today. That is where my frustration lies. The fact we're getting nothing for him.
I think that would be frustrating for any supporter of any team. If not necessarily the team captain, but, if one of their players was on a 3-year deal but had a clause inserted to say that he could leave for free after a year, I would be absolutely livid if that was the situation with, the team that I support. Yeah. And I'm really quite surprised. I didn't know that was the case, Graham. I'd heard people kind of going on about, he can leave, he can leave on a free. But I thought, no, if he's on a 3-year contract, they're going to have to get, something for him, even if it's not like a couple of $1 million. They're going to get something for him, just based on the fact that he's got a couple of years left on his contract.
Well, that's what I thought, but I had it confirmed today by a couple of different people and a couple of folk that I know that do Hearts podcasts that said, no, he asked for this release clause. And I thought, that doesn't sit right with me. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's very poor.
And do you think maybe there was something even back then in the pipeline that he could potentially move to Ibrox, even back then? And that's the reason behind it?
I've probably overthought this, but I imagine that Shankland and maybe his agent, I put it out there to Rangers, who obviously didn't come in for him last season, but there's been so much talk over the last few seasons about this happening.
Yeah.
I can only assume that the agent has put it out there to somebody at Rangers. Look, we've got this clause in Shankland's contract that means if you come in for him in the summer, you'll get him for nothing. So I think this has probably been happening for a while, and this is where my frustration comes in because Shankland knew about this, Hearts have known about this. As I said, I completely understand getting another year out of him, absolutely fine, but I can't believe that someone at Hearts has signed off on this, knowing that after a year, he's going to go when he's still got 2 years left and we get nothing for him. I can't believe that's been signed off.
Yeah. No, it's unbelievable. It's crazy situation. And obviously we don't know what's going to happen next season, right? But who's to say that he jumps from Hearts to go to play for Rangers and still doesn't end up in a team that finishes third or possibly lower than that? You know, because at the end of the day, we don't know about the new players that are going to come in other than Lawrence Shankland. And we all know how good a player he is and how good he is at scoring goals. But let's be honest, he's not going to be a man that's going to carry that team for an entire season if there's not going to be other people there that are up to that kind of standard.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that obviously Shankland is one part of that jigsaw, but Rangers still need to go and buy players that can really stand up to that level. Because you look at some of the players, I mean, Rangers struggled to win any of the 4 post-split games. I mean, and a lot of Rangers fans are not happy with Danny Rowe as much as a few people on the show were saying, oh, well, I think Danny Rowe won't get next season. I mean, I've never heard a Rangers manager song being sung at Celtic Park. You know, and to me, it just feels like Danny Rowe's not got the support of Rangers fans either because of the treatment of James Tavernier as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact that James Tavernier's boy stopped playing for Rangers Academy because he thought that James Tavernier was starting the match, and then to not even be in the squad is crazy to me. But
that was a huge shock when I seen that as well. You know, potentially the guy's last game ever for the club, and whether you like him or you don't like him, you know, doesn't really matter. But he has been a terrific servant to that football club since the day he stepped through those doors, and he's always been available. You know, if he's able to play in the games, he's always been there, and he's done his best. And he scored a lot of goals. You know, as a defender, he scored a lot of goals. And I know a lot of people are going to say, but so many of them were penalties, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, that doesn't matter. A goal's a goal. Whether you score it from open play, you score it from a penalty or a free kick, it doesn't matter. It's a goal.
Yeah. Graham, I know you'll probably talk about it on TikTok the next few days, but who are you looking at to replace Shankland? Because you probably need I'd probably say 2 strikers now, because the actual contribution of Shankland was a lot of goals.
This is the thing, it's difficult to replace him because it's not just the goals, it's what he actually brings. It's the leadership, it's the all-round game that he's got, his intelligence, his link-up play, bringing the best out of other players around him. That's what you're losing. You know, you're losing that experience, so it's going to be difficult. I've heard a few names banded about. I heard Barney Stewart from Falkirk. Now, don't get me wrong, he's done well at Falkirk. He's done well at Falkirk, but you can't replace Lawrence Shankland with Barney Stewart. That just can't happen. So I think we need at least 2, maybe even 3 strikers, because assuming that Claudio Braga stays, which hopefully he does because he's been brilliant, you've then got Landry Kabore. Again, I don't know if he's going to go up to the mark or not. You've got Cabango will go. Young James Wilson's back from loan at Tottenham. I don't know if he'll get a lot of starts. You're looking at potential at least 2 new strikers. But it's what Shankland gives you. You know, it's that all-round leadership he's got, and it's difficult to replace that. We knew it was going to happen. Like, I always knew that Shankland wasn't going to be at Hearts for the rest of his career. That wasn't going to happen. But how you replace him is going to be difficult. But this is why we've got the whole Jamestown stuff there. They'll have been looking at this. You know, they'll have all obviously known this for a while that he's going to leave. They'll have a list of names up there that they can look at and put to Derek McInnes and say, look, this guy's done really well on the chart and stuff. So it's going to be interesting summer, because I do think it's going to be a big rebuild. Our first game's a Champions League qualifier, which still sounds mental to say. But I reckon we're going to have at least... I reckon the starting 11 in that game will be very different to what it was against Celtic last week. I think you're looking at potentially 7 to 8 new players in that lineup. So it's exciting, but it's also very interesting to see who goes and who comes in.
See, the thing as well is, Graham, right? You look at Brighton, right? Brighton always sell that kind of talisman every year. So do you think, like, Tony Bloom might say to himself, if we can sell Braga and make a fortune as well? Because you look at, like, Brighton, they always tend to sell players to make big profits. So I'm just thinking, because Braga's been so important, especially because you got nothing for Shankland as well.
Yeah, well, I think we got Braga for like £400,000 from the Norwegian Second Division. And when he came in, a lot of folk thought, who's he? And I'll be honest, I was the same. And he's gone and scored 18 goals in his first season. This is what Jamestown's all about. It's about bringing guys in for nothing and selling for a profit. So we'll get decent money for Braga. I don't want to see him go because he's been absolutely fantastic. He's also got the best football chant there will ever be, and I can't stop singing it. But he will have to be replaced at some point. So you're hoping that Jamestown's got an absolute gem in there that can come in and be even better. So I said that last week after the disappointment of what happened against Celtic. I think it's exciting times for Hearts. This is the first season of Tony Bloom. When he first came in, he talked about winning the title in 10 years. He talked about splitting the old firm. Well, he's done one of that. He split the old firm. He's finished second. He's got Champions League. The next step is now just trying to go that little bit further, win the league. You know, it's disappointing not to win it. But I said this last week. I was really proud of the team. What they've given us this season, they let us dream. They gave me and my laddie a lot of really good moments this season, which I can't forget. So I think it's exciting times, and I think we'll be up there again. I've seen a few folks saying, "Oh, that's it now. Hearts will slip away." I don't believe that. I think we'll be up there again and again and again. The one thing I do want to see us do, though, is do better in the Cups. Because last season was disappointing, not doing well in the Scottish Cup, not doing the League Cup. I want to get back to Hampden to win a trophy. So that'll be nice to see. But yeah, I think we'll be up there again. There's no doubt about that at all.
Yeah, and obviously Hearts announced that they're signing Josh McPake from St Johnstone as well. Graham, do you see him being a big part of the squad?
I think he's going to be a cracking player. Championship player of the season. He's quick, he's skillful. He can score goals, exactly what Hearts need. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic. You do wonder, can players in the Championship step up? I think he will. I think he'll be a fantastic player. The one thing, there's a few things Hearts need this season, but we do need more goals in the wide areas and midfield. Because we don't have a midfield that can score goals. Cammy Devlin doesn't score. Benny gets a nosebleed when he gets to the edge of the box. We need goals from midfield. So that's going to be important. You look
what about Devlin? Did he see his future being a Hearts?
I don't get the impression he wants to go. By all accounts, he's been at Hearts for 5 years. He's been fantastic. This has probably been his best season, actually, apart from the injury. I still hold out hope he'll stay. I think Benny will go, but I'm still holding out hope that Devlin might think his future's at Hearts. I love Benny Cammy. I think he's been fantastic this season. So I hope he stays. I think that'll be a big plus if he stays.
Yeah, and obviously Hearts will be looking to strengthen in centre-back area because obviously Craig Halkett got a 9 months injury, so that's something you'll need to strengthen as well, Graham. Yeah,
I was gutted. He was absolutely fantastic this season. I've said it before, I think when he's fit, he's our best centre-back. I was gutted he got injured. But we are looking to sign a guy from York City, a guy called Walcott, I think his name is, for about £750,000. Aye, we're also trying to sign MJ Camson Kamara from Lincoln City. So the centre-back pairing will be very different next season. You've still got Stuart Finlay, you've got Steinwinder, Frankie Kent will probably go. So yeah, I think it's exciting times, the summer window. I always look forward to it. But the Hearts team is going to look very different next season. It's going to be very, very different. The one thing I will say, though, is can Hearts fans, if you're watching this, please stop with the nonsense that Derek McInnes is going to get sacked. Because where that's come from, I do not know.
Who said that?
I've seen it a few times. It was on one of my group chats. The very first thing I saw when I woke up this morning is McInnes will get sacked, and I thought, mute.
No chance. No chance. He's
honestly, it's just nonsense, man.
Graham, finally, we should probably tell people that that obviously, I think the Champions League draw took place. Graham, you can tell us who your team's been drawn against.
Yeah, so we've got a choice of two, thanks to Aston Villa finishing fourth in the Premiership, although Liverpool were terrible. We're going to play either Sturm Graz of Austria or Fenerbahce of Turkey, and I think I'd probably rather have Sturm Graz. I don't really fancy a trip to Turkey, to be fair.
I might go with you, Graham, and get a wee transplant while I'm there.
Is that not early for drawing those games? I know they're starting early, but I just kind of feel that it's a wee bit early to be, drawing. I mean, like I read somewhere that they're going to be drawing the League Cup early rounds in the next couple of weeks as well in Scotland. It just seems a bit mad to me.
Yeah, our draw for the Champions League is like the 17th of June. It's like only about 3 or 4 days after the World Cup kicks off, so it's very early. It's like you've just finished the season and you're just about back again.
I know, But Graham, is there anything else you want to mention about Shankland as well? Because I know you want to speak about it.
No, he's a rat. No, I'm joking. I've seen a lot of Hearts fans that are going to boo him. For what he's done for Hearts, I just can't do that. I'd rather focus on Hearts moving forward. He's not our player anymore. He's done fantastic for Hearts. I wish he'd won a trophy. Here's the thing I'm going to ask you guys, actually, as neutrals and anyone else in the chat, right? I was asked this myself and my laddie. Lawrence Shankland, is he a Hearts legend? Because for me, I think that word gets bandied about a lot. No. He's done brilliant for Hearts, but he didn't win a trophy, which I think is quite important. So as a neutral, where do you stand on Lawrence Shankland? Is he a Hearts legend? Because I'm not at that stage.
No, he's not. He's done very well, but he's not a legend.
No, I wouldn't say that. But as you said, Graham, no, they do bandy that word legend around very easily nowadays, But no, I wouldn't say he's a Hearts legend, just for the very same reasons that you just mentioned there. He's not won a trophy. He's done very, very well for the club, and you've got to be grateful and thankful for that. But, no, not a legend.
And Graham, what do you make of obviously Andy Robertson possibly joining Spurs? That'll be a big deal.
Do you know, I've been watching that with interest, because obviously it was a case of a Spurs meant Denny wouldn't go, but they stayed up yesterday. I mean, you must be relieved. A lot of Tottenham fans are relieved. It's been such a weird season, not just in Scotland, but England as well. Tottenham fighting against relegation. Liverpool have been terrible. Arsenal have won a league title. I mean, what has happened? Get me off this planet, man. Seriously. What is going on here?
I know. But see, in terms finally about the match, that we're possibly going to see in Paisley, I mean, I think it's going to be a cracking match. I know I did say 2-0 to Partick Thistle, but I still think it's going to be end-to-end, guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to see it because of a prior engagement. But I do think it'll be a super game. And I'm actually, to be honest, I've actually set the TV to record it. So I won't. I know for a fact, unless one of you guys send me a message, and you better not. I know for a fact that where I'm going, I won't get any kind of notifications of what's happening in that game. So when I watch it back, I won't know. Who's won, who's lost, etc. So don't be sending me messages throughout the game, right?
Thanks for letting me know. I'll probably text you into
Watch this. James is going to set his record and it'll be like a 0-0 draw, one of the worst games ever, and horrible penalties as well.
Oh no!
I fixed it completely. I said it'll be a great game.
I know.
No, as a neutral, I hope it's a good game, but I just hope, and again, I say this all the time and I'm going to repeat myself, but I really hope that we're not talking about St Mirren going down or Partick coming up because of a refereeing decision or a VAR decision. Just please be it the best teams won, because I can't be doing any more stuff about officials, man. It's done my nutting this season enough.
This is something that I was thinking about, right? Because obviously I didn't realise that they were using VAR last week. Do you think it's fair for them to use it in the final based on the fact that the team coming from the lower league won't be used to it? Or should it just be down to the officials?
I think it should be down to the officials.
Yeah, that's my thought.
And I think Partick Thistle had to spend a lot of money as well, so it's not very I don't think they think about the overall money that it wastes as well. So I think in general, I think they should just leave it to the official at the park.
It should be down to officials, but the issue is our officials are terrible. And I've said this so often this season. I think for me, and I'm not going to get banned like Michael Stewart for handles, so it doesn't bother me. I think this is the worst it's been for a long time. I genuinely think the standard has been at an all-time low this season, and that needs to get sorted in the summer because it's just been horrendous.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you, and I've said that to a lot of people. You know, that the standard of the officiating in Scotland is shocking. Even before they introduced VAR, I wasn't particularly enamoured by a lot of the officials. But ever since the introduction of VAR has come along, the biggest thing for me is that when the referee gets told to go and do an on-field review, you can more or less guarantee that he's going to overturn that original decision, whether he thinks, he was right or wrong. But, you know, I mean, unless he thinks his original decision was right or not, he's going to overturn it. Whereas what he should be doing is, if he thinks 100%, you know, that it was a penalty or whatever the situation was, he should stand by that, regardless of what the guy in the VAR room says.
Yeah. I think the official on VAR gets involved far too much. I mean, I know that they check everything, but there's some things that are just, when you watch a game now, all you see is the referee like that with his hand on his ear waiting for a decision. It's like, what are you waiting for? Yeah. I've said this so often again, I don't even think VAR is the problem. It's the officials that don't know how to use it properly. Yeah. And again, you've got a guy like Willie Collum, who's the head of referees. How he got that job, I'll never know. But yeah, that's a conversation for a different night.
So James is going for 2-1. Graham's going for 1-1 and penalties, and I'm going for 2-0 for Partick Thistle. Thank you very much for watching. I better promote the show for 10 o'clock. But James, please don't tune in because we'll be talking about the score.
Oh, don't you worry, I won't be tuning in at 10 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
I'll be enjoying a liquid refreshment at 10 o'clock.
Oh, thank you very much for joining us, Graham. Thank you very much, James.